Did 12 people show up? No. Did we play Desperation? No. Did we have a good time? You bet. Hi, I'm Dr. Emily Friedman, and I continue to gather my parties. Welcome to part 4, the second meeting. Uh, it was an interesting night, which I knew was going to have smaller attendance for a couple of reasons. Two of my kind of most committed role players had not one, but two different conflicts of other role playing games. Saturday nights were never going to be a good night for them. Another one of my stalwarts always shows up, can be relied on unless he's out of town, had a basketball game. Saturdays, just not a good night. And they're really not a good night if we move into the fall because football. Friday's going to be great. We did have one person who didn't come last time because they were at a conference, and two stalwarts did arrive. And this was kind of a little staggered, so a lot of conversation about other game experiences to kind of get more getting to know you under our belts. And we ended up playing the game we didn't play last week, which is For the Queen. For the Queen's really handy for these kinds of things, especially when you have people dropping in and out or who you don't know when everybody's going to show up. Depending on where you put the Queen is under attack, you can run this in 15 minutes or you can keep it going. And in fact, with both of the games that we ran, we ended up just moving the card a little bit further into the deck in order to keep it going for a little bit longer. Because the other game we were able to play that I'm really glad that we were able to get our hands around was a game I had not yet played, although my students have. James D'Amato's Oh Captain, My Captain, a Descended from the Queen game that adds a few extra layers. You play the crew who are following a captain on a quest for a prize that you are going to collectively decide features about. Like For the Queen, you're envisioning your captain, possibly using available image cards. And you're doing the same kind of answering of questions. It's just that the equivalent of The Queen is Under Attack is a kind of resolution card that then asks you to vote on what the qualities of the captain are. And depending on the consensus or the majority sense of who the captain is, are they strong? Are they weak? Are they honorable? Or are they wicked? You use one of the different ending cards to determine what actually happens and narrate the ending from there. It played much quicker than it looked out of the box, it's worth noting. For the Queen is quintessentially elegant in this way. A stack of maybe 15 cards walks you through the process of learning the game. Each of those cards has maybe 1 to 2 sentences on it. And so you can quickly get into the act of playing the game because literally the rules teach is also showing you that. There's a lot more of these rules cards to get through to walk you through the process of setting this up. And luckily, because we just played For the Queen, we didn't actually have to read them very closely. I just kind of had to set up the different sets of cards in order to get us where we needed to go. And then create the different stacks of different colored cards. So story cards, which are a weird way to shape the or label the this is the opening premise. There's not individual story setups. It's just 4 cards telling you the premise of the game. A big stack of questions, the ending cards, and interestingly, the decision card, which is the card that ends the game or triggers the end condition, is a different color from the question cards, visibly so. And if your deck slides even just a little bit, you're going to notice this. which means you're going to know the end is coming in ways you don't in For the Queen. I don't think that's a killer of this game. It's just a note I would have for the next edition of this game. I don't think there's a need for that many of the rules cards, and I think there's a way to make that more elegant, and I don't it's very handy to be able to find the decision card quickly when you're trying to reorganize your deck. That's certainly a friction point in For the Queen. But on the other hand, it's nice to have the surprise. And that's worth, spending a little bit more time finding the queen is under attack. I wonder if for both games, turning the queen is under attack side of that card a visibly different color would be more helpful. In the first edition of For the Queen, that card is marked out with a rose in ways that make it visually identifiable when you're shuffling quite quickly. But again, quibbles on what is a really interesting iteration of For the Queen. I found it to be super fun, and for under $20, there are worse ways to grab something at Barnes and Noble that can play quickly, or wherever you buy games, like a friendly local game store. It's just worth noting this is a Simon & Schuster imprint, so it's very widely available, as are many Darrington Press things these days. So we were able to talk about this, and we were also talking a fair amount because of who was showing up, these kinds of dedicated players that I am hoping to kind of develop into players who kind of have enough trust in each other to maybe play some games that require a longer period of time, those sorts of things. And so what's really nice about For the Queen and Oh Captain, My Captain is that it sets you up for the kind of emergent character creation that you'll see in games like Die, which is very much on my mind these days. I'm writing about Die in my actual playbook, as well as in some other places. And of course, I'm teaching it. And so getting traditionally experienced role players, which is the kind of folks that you'd need for a game like Die, comfortable with an emergent process of character creation where you are literally kind of playing to find out across the first session through the kind of questions that direct your thinking this is really helpful, kind of in the same way that banded pull-ups get you ready for the real thing. Another thing that I'm training this semester. So one way of framing this vlog is to say, okay, I went from 12 to 3. Yikes. But the reality is I knew this was going to be a smaller group, and with the time that we had together, I wanted to spend some time with some games that I thought would stretch us in a direction that, given the people who were in front of me, I wanted them to kind of start to explore. And I think it worked really, really well. Desperation can wait, which is a weird thing to say. And next week, in anticipation of the visit of my dear friend Jay Dragon, and by player request, we're going to be cracking open Yazebas, and it won't matter how many people show up. If we have a dozen or more, there's party chapters. And if we have the same folks or a similar tight cohort of folks with role-playing experience, stretching them with pensive chapters, I think is something really beautiful. What's really lovely about Yazebas, in the same way that For the Queen and Oh Captain, My Captain and other Descended from the Queen games work, which, by the way, you can pull Descended from the Queen games up and play them from your phone. There's a whole set of them, and I'll put a link in the description to this video. What's nice about all of these games is they're also designed to be played quickly and for a long time, that you can do loops that allow for, oh, hey, I'm gonna be there, but like at 7:30 instead of 7. Not a problem. We'll play around before you get there. And if you get there in the middle, you can watch. If you have to leave early, that's okay. You don't have to play that chapter. Or we can cut this round a little tight. the point is that we're all getting to know each other in new ways. Today's visitors or guests were someone I've worked with on committees for a long time, a former grad student in my department who's now in leadership position elsewhere in the university, and a friend of mine who I know best as the partner of one of my really good colleagues who I helped arrange the flowers at their wedding a long time ago now. Um, so yeah, so these are what we might think of as loose ties, right? In terms of who showed up tonight. Um, but that's how loose ties become potentially closer in all kinds of ways. We should never dismiss those kinds of connections because those are part of the kind of weave that holds us up. Not everyone is kind of exactly the same kind of intensity. And again, in the same way that we're not making one game group to rule them all, this isn't even the only game group that these folks are in. One of them is DMing for their kids, one of them is part of a series of groups. As I mentioned, some of my players couldn't come because they have two different games on Saturdays. Um, and which is really lovely, in addition to having newbies who are just getting into the hobby. That this mesh that we're hopefully starting to create is something that is all the more sustainable because it isn't the only outlet and no one is the one person in charge. Sure, it's my house and I'm sending the invitations, but what's really nice is that people are thinking about this as a collaborative exercise in all kinds of ways. I should also note as I finish this video that um, they also know about this YouTube channel and they know that this is obviously something that is part of the the body of work that I do for the public. I won't talk about them by name or anything like that, but they are cool with me talking about my particular role. And so, yeah, so did it go according to plan? No, because I didn't plan. I improv'd. You can do that too. And if you find it hard, I'm there with you. You just get easier. It 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 becomes, we put in the reps. We show up for one another and we see what happens. I'm excited for what comes next week. I have no idea who's going to come when I send what I hope will be a much more prompt email this week. There's a lot more gaming next week than, uh, will be typical because I'll have game friends in town and maybe they'll say hi in this office before they leave. Uh, but yeah, so it won't just be me and it won't just be private play. So balancing different kinds of play is going to be a really interesting juggling act. More on that as it comes. Take care. Have some fun.